brought over Nancy's grandson, and so Christy and I could work on her Emmaus talk, which is beautiful. And so he just won the hearts of Greer and Lysander, and they played outside. I just thought it was beautiful, and a beautiful example of a discipling kind of moment in our backyard. So Howie, that pastor that preaches down at Rockton, his church, the building that is falling apart. The wall that once supported the now missing balcony, I don't know how long ago they took it out, but it's been leaning increasingly off-plumb. A couple of pillars are crumbling and a number of other points in the ceiling are sagging. It's really not great. And contractors agree that this winter's snow could be the proverbial straw that brings it all crumbling in on itself. So they've had all the requisite emergency meetings about all of this, looked for alternative worship spaces, and calculated the various ways they can address this quite aged building. And people are all over the map, of course, in their responses, as you might imagine. Some are the grandchildren or great-grandchildren of the people who first were in this building, of the original space. Many were baptized and married and mourned the losses of loved ones in this sacred space. So they want to do all that they can to preserve the building, right? Others who are more recent additions in the faith community or who have similar histories as the former, but aren't quite as attached to the structure itself, want to imagine other ways to create a safe space in which to worship, where walls don't crumble down in on you. that would not be very worshipful. Whatever the case, they will be displaced for a time. And several area churches, some even of vastly different theologies, have graciously offered their spaces, including Brian McCorkle. They have a chapel in his facility there, and he offered that space as well. But all of it will incur significant costs. The greatest of which would be the option to, this is one of the things they talk about, scaffolding the outside and bolstering the wall of the sanctuary, leaving aside the other renovations that also need addressing. So it's just a really huge undertaking no matter what they do. So feelings are very, very strong. People are worried that they'll lose worship attenders if they move to another place. Others are lamenting the loss of tithes and offerings and speculate about the future of the church community in general. And to find a consensus seems impossible because it's strong emotion about it. It is, of course, impossible without listening to each other's perspectives. Sound familiar? We will only maintain our own view if we do not listen to each other. Immovable as a church building crumbling around us. Henry Nouwen once said, "Somewhere we know that without silence, words lose their meaning. Without listening, speaking no longer heals. That without distance, closeness cannot cure." Human beings are meaning makers. And we attach meaning to places and spaces and people and mementos. Still, if the thing becomes the meaning itself, it is now an idol. And the very device that Jesus tells us unequivocally violates the greatest commandment, in which sums up all the law and prophets, about which no other command is greater. Listen up! Hear, O Israel. The Lord your God is one. So love God with everything. And the second is like it. Love everyone else as you love yourself. So why do you follow Jesus? Amnesty Poland did this experiment, and they wanted to see what would happen, and this was in the wake of just a few years ago, all the influx of the Syrian refugees that were coming into Europe. And so they went to Berlin because they were concerned about how we just assign numbers to people who are just aren't in our purview, that aren't in our space, and not actually thinking about the families or the loved ones, their own stories and their dreams and goals. And they said that only when you sit down opposite a specific person and look into their eyes will you no longer see an anonymous refugee, one of the migrants, and notice the human before you, just like yourself, loving and suffering and dreaming. So 20 years ago, the psychologist Arthur Aron discovered that 4 minutes of looking into each other's eyes can bring people closer. 4 minutes. Using this discovery, we decided to carry out a simple experiment during which refugees and Europeans sat opposite each other and looked into each other's eyes. Clearly, it is most important to give each other time to better understand and get to know each other. The experiment was conducted in Berlin, the city which, first of all, is a symbol of overcoming divisions, and so they thought through all of this. But they asked these people, they had 2 people sitting opposite each other, one from Europe and one from Syria, and to sit for 4 minutes and look into each other's eyes and see what happened. It's not staged, and they had no idea what it was going to look like, but I have a video here of what happened.
Nice mustache.